the Otakon Award.
Okay. And I'll focus right in on it here.
This award was presented to, it was a contest, a nationwide contest for people who had hearing loss and who had achieved success in spite of their hearing loss. And one of the women who used to work for me said, you know, I read about this award, and I really would like to submit your name. And I said, oh, you know, I didn't really think too serious about it, but she wrote this wonderful description of what I had done with my hearing loss. And I won. And it meant, you know, I went to California and received the award. It's for people who have a hearing loss, and they continue to operate as if you didn't have a hearing loss, and continue to use their hearing loss in a very positive way. Mm-hmm. So I think it's special, because I have a friend who says, when you're dealt lemons,
make lemonade.
Make lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to do that with my hearing loss. When I first lost it, there was a doctor who said, well, you just have to learn to grow old graciously. And I have tried to grow old graciously.
But you were too young.
But not by ignoring my hearing loss. Not by ignoring
You were too young to grow old graciously then.
Well, I was 40 when he said that.
Yes!
And how old are you now?
I'm going to be 70. So it's been 30 years. Dealing with the hearing loss. But I'm fortunate because I had my education, my family, friends, a sense of community before I lost my hearing. And so people realized that when I lost my hearing, I hadn't lost my mind or my ability to do things, and that I could still be an individual. Sometimes it's hard with people who you just meet, but on the whole, most people say, oh, I didn't know you have hearing loss. So.
And the other awards: exceptional achievements, special recognitions, citation awards, silver, gold medal, bronze
Well,
award.
those awards were for
the magazine?
For magazines or publications that I did when I was working. Now, this publication, Focus, won many awards. But I don't take the full credit for that myself. I had a wonderful team of writers and photographers and designers who put it all together.
And the Keystone Award, that sounds like it's slightly different.
Well, the Keystone Award was given to an SHHH member, Self-Help for Hard of Hearing member, for service to the organization.
So that was a more personal award, isn't it?
Well, yes, but when I received that award, I said I was so surprised because I was just doing what I thought any board member should do. I mean, I don't think board members should just go to meetings and vote yes or vote no. I think board members need to involve themselves in the organization and need to be creative in their thinking and need to think of ways that they can help the organization. I was just doing what I thought anybody should do if you serve on a board of an organization. But it was a very nice award to receive.
What do you have yet to do in your life?
Well, I have another idea of a book I want to write. I've been collecting material about it. I'm asked to speak so often, and even though I try to provide everything so that when I arrive there is a lectern, perhaps a microphone, and even an audience. It doesn't always happen. When you speak, you would like one of three things anyway. All three if possible. You would like an audience, you would like publicity, you would like to be paid. I've never asked to be paid to speak. I provide information for the publicity and hope that someone will take care of it. But I do like most an audience. There are things that you can do when you ask someone to speak. I mean, I get phone calls that say, can you speak at a dinner? This will be September when they call. Can you speak at our dinner next May? Let me check the calendar. Well, I'll put it on the calendar. How long would you like, I say, how long would you like to hear me speak? What topic did you have in mind? I ask all sorts of things. And then I put it on the calendar and I say, would you please put this in writing? So I remember who it is who called me. I shouldn't have to do that. I feel that I've taken on the responsibility because the person who called me hasn't done it. So I would like to write a handbook for people to know what to do. For instance, write a letter first and say, we would like you to come and speak, and this is our organization, this is our kind of membership, this is the sort of topics we're interested in, so forth. I will call you in 2 weeks and we can discuss it on the phone. So I have some preparation ahead. In my book I would have a draft of that letter. I would have a setup for the room, and I would now include what to do for people who don't hear well, how to set up the room. I would tell them about thank you notes. I would tell them about honorariums. I had some really funny honorariums. After that first National Women's Conference, I gave 31 speeches that year. And people were always trying to pay me, and I really did not want to accept money. One group was so insistent. Well, what we really would like to do is reimburse you for your travel and then give you a small honorarium. And so I would think I had to go to Clifton Springs, which is about 30 miles, and so that's 60 miles. And so if it was 10 cents a mile, that would be $6, and maybe they would do $9, and thought that I would open this envelope and there would be a check for $15. And then you'd open the envelope, there'd be $3 in it. And you'd think, you all need the money more than I do. And I think there are things that could go into this book about sometimes it's better not to offer anything than to offer just a pittance of money. Charity, and we can contribute. And then you don't have to worry. You can contribute $10 to a charity. And then it looks like might look like a lot of money. Just different things that you can do, and I was going to call it things I learned on the way to the dais, or the care and feeding of public speakers. So one of these days, I will do it, but right now, that book, Keys to Living with Hearing Loss, is going out of print, and so it needs to be re-edited and worked on. I've got to fool around with that.
What changes are you planning to make in it?
There's not much material that's updated, but I do want to put more material about the digital hearing aids and now the disposable hearing aids. That's not in it. There is also, I'd like to do a chapter on tinnitus. I mentioned tinnitus, but I didn't do a whole chapter on it. And there's some new things that have come about. And there's also a lot of new research on aging and processing of information with a hearing loss. So that could be another chapter. So just try to keep it as up to date as possible, but it's a primer. And
what is aging and aging and processing of information with a hearing loss?
Have a hard time. I had a hard time sometimes when I'm listening in Italian. When we went to Rome, I had to ask for directions. I understand Italian because it's so much like Spanish. So I heard everything that man said, la sinistra, which is the left, la destra, and I listened and I heard exactly what he said. I understood it, and then I didn't process it. I didn't put it together. So when he went away, I thought, what do I do first? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do we go straight?
Now you know what it's like to have a learning disability.
And when you have a hearing loss, that business of being able to process that information becomes more difficult as you get older. So, but there's a lot of research that's being done right now. So I'd like to put some of this stuff in because sometimes you don't know whether it's the hearing loss or it's the aging factor or just what it is that's causing you the problems.
If you heard it, would you have been able to write it down, and would that have facilitated the processing?
If I had done that, and I learn better when I write. When I go to hear a lecture, it's so much easier if I'm taking notes. I can process that information. So I process better that way, where some people can just listen to something and remember everything that's being said.
Were you always visually oriented?
I must have been, because I've always done that. I take notes on everything. I'm
Which
much
isn't
more comfortable
necessarily
with a piece of paper and pencil.
Visual orientation, as much as making things multisensory,
Right.
gives us more input.
Many people who are deaf from an early age they develop more of their visual ability. Have you been doing whatever you had before? Have you been enhancing it since?
I think so. For instance, I notice, when you come back from a trip and you have to go through customs, you have all these lines, and people sort of move into lines. I'm watching somebody who's going to open up. I'm using my eyes so much more than I ever did before. Otherwise, you just sort of go along merrily. I often see the fire engine before anybody. I pull over before some of the cars ahead of me or behind me, wherever the engine is coming from, have pulled over. You just are watching all the time because you don't hear. So you become, that sense becomes sharper. And my sense of smell is probably the sharpest sense I've ever had. I smell things when no one else can smell them.
And you didn't before?
I did that.
I did that
before. My father would come home from work, and I would say, "Oh, you've been drinking." And he might have only had one cocktail, but I could smell it. When I worked, the coffee pot would be burning in the back room, and I was the furthest person from it, and I would say to the secretaries, "I think the coffee pot is burning."
But that's not
and
something
they
new.
hadn't smelled it.
That's
And
not
they
a
were
new
close.
skill, right? That's an
That's an old
old skill.